Hey, welcome to the Top Shelf, and right now it's time to make the Vancouver cocktail. It's a cocktail that was invented in the 50s and was popular at the Sylvia Hotel around 1954 or so. And it's kind of a vintage, kind of forgotten classic. And the interesting thing about it is that I actually discovered about this cocktail after coming back from a trip to Vancouver. I spent a month there, had great food, great cocktails. I brought a bunch of bottles back that you can't find here. It was awesome. And then I was just curious, like, was there actually a cocktail named after the city? And lo and behold, we got a Vancouver. And this cocktail is actually a riff on a Martinez. So you're gonna have the gin, the sweet vermouth, the liqueur, and also orange bitters. So what makes it different than the Martinez is that instead of using the Maraschino liqueur you would put in a Martinez, you're gonna be using Bénédictine D.O.M. And it's also really interesting in the fact that depending on the ratios that you use, and especially the type of ingredients, when we're talking about brands here, it's going to give you a vastly different flavor profile. And I've toyed around with it quite a bit because it's not necessarily super easy to get something that's really, really tasty. But I think that with the ratios I'm going to show you here and the ingredients in particular, you're getting something that's really nice, really well balanced, not too sweet, not too dry. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit later about another ratio if you want. Well, actually, not if you want, but I'm going to give it to you anyway because you might be interested. First things first, you want to use a mixing glass because it's a mixed cocktail. And the first ingredients we're going to use here is Regan's number 6 orange bitters. I'm using Regan specifically because I wanted to sort of not detract from the sweetness of the Benedictine, but at the same time I wanted to sort of like play a little bit of a counteracting agent, so make sure that it doesn't detract from the taste, but it's not overly sweet as well. I like the bitterness of it, the earthiness of the orange peels. So we're gonna be putting 2 dashes of Regan's number 6. Go. The next ingredient we're gonna be using is a London dry gin. This is what I believe works best with this cocktail. So, I mean, you could use a contemporary style, mostly like, I'd say an American style gin if you want. However, I still believe that London Dry is going to be a better fit for this one. And when it comes to this, I would advise to use something that's above 45% or 90 proof because otherwise, with the other ingredients in there, you might end up with the gin just taking a back seat. And I really want it to be present, but not overpowering. But still, for me, I'm gonna be using Boodles because that's one of the ones I think works really well in this cocktail. So I'm gonna be using 1.5 ounce of Boodles London Dry Gin. Here we go. In the mixing glass. Perfect. Now the next ingredient I think is the most important one of them all. The sweet vermouth actually has the most drastic effect on the cocktail, and for some strange reason I found that the lighter ones and obviously also the cheaper ones are actually better. So like Martini Rossi, sweet vermouth, the Cinzano Rosso, they work amazingly well in this cocktail. But my favorite at the moment for this one is going to be the Martini Rossi's Riserva Speciale Rubino. This one is everything that the basic version is, but it's fruitier, it's a little bit bolder, a little spicier, more bitter, but not as sweet. So for me, it's going to work really well with the rest of the ingredients in this cocktail. And for this one, I will use 3/4 ounces of sweet vermouth. There you go. Also, you're going to notice that this one is a very dark, crimson red kind of color and makes for a very, very nice looking cocktail. Last but not least, the Benedictine. Now be careful, you want to use the Bénédictine D.O.M and not the B&B version. So this one we're going to be using 1/2 ounce of Benedictine. And for this one also I would suggest, because of how thick and, here you go, 1/2 ounce. Because of how thick and powerful it is with the sweetness and herbiness of it. You don't want to put too much, so I would tend to say maximum, you know, half an ounce, which is what I'm doing here. You could go down up to even a teaspoon if you find that it's too sweet, overpowering, but I would say maybe around a quarter ounce to half an ounce would be like a sweet spot for this one. Otherwise, before I put some ice in there and start mixing it, I wanted to tell you about the other ratio. So this one here, what I'm using is a 3-to-1 ratio of London Dry Gin, sweet vermouth, and Benedictine, and then with 2 dashes of orange bitters. But you could also try a dry version, what I think would be a more, how can I say, a little bit more vintage in a way. So that would be an 8-3-1 ratio of, so 2 ounces of London Dry Gin, 3/4 ounces of sweet vermouth, and a 1/4 ounce of Benedictine. And then you can go on from there. And all right, let's put some ice in there and mix it. There you go. Fill that glass with ice. Take my spoon and mix this around for, you know, 25 to 30 seconds or 50 to 60 revolutions, depending on how you do it. So I'm gonna go approximately here, 60 revolutions. There you go. Give it a shot here. Perfect. Okay. So let's grab a cold glass. We're gonna be putting this in a nice cold coupe. Go. Perfect. And now for garnish, you have 3 options. So the most popular garnishes normally seem to be either orange peels or a lemon twist. Personally, I kind of like Simon Difford's take on it, which would be to use a maraschino cherry, because if you look at the color of this, and especially with the flavor profile you get in there, it doesn't remind me so much of a Manhattan, but sort of, and I do like my maraschino cherries in there, so we're gonna be using one, not this one because it's not good looking, perfect. So let's see, grab one of these right in there, a bit of juice. Here you go. And that is how you make a Vancouver cocktail. Now let's give it a shot. Let's see how it is. Oh yeah. So I like the fact that in my version, you can taste the gin, the sweet vermouth, and the Benedictine without any of the ingredients overpowering each other. I think that sweet vermouth, so the Riserva Speciale Urbino, makes a really, really good Vancouver. Now, if you want to use higher end vermouth, you could probably use Cocchi di Torino, which I think is probably going to be pretty good. It's going to give you some chocolatey, nutty kind of flavors in there, but I would probably use it more in the dry version that I gave you earlier. And when it comes to Carpano Antico formula, I was kind of disappointed to see that no matter what you do with it, the only thing that comes out is like it's overly sweet and very licorice oriented, which I don't think works really well with that cocktail. But otherwise, what I like with it is that this version, it's very nice, it's very fresh. You taste everything, there's nothing that conflicts with each other, and it's very refreshing, quite boozy as well. And there you go, like I said, that's how you make a Vancouver cocktail. So if you have any questions, any comments about this cocktail, you want to know anything, just please write it down in the comments below. And as usual, don't forget to subscribe, click that notification bell, and thanks again, and I'll see you next time. This is good.